What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over the draft press conference that Dave Gettleman recently had yesterday. We're going to do a little breakdown on it. Also, I'm going to make a video later on today or maybe even tomorrow when it will be up. But two idiots, I'm not going to mention their name, also had their own take on Dave Gettleman's comments and things like that in his draft press conference. And I'm going to have a doozy in debating them kind of virtually. But anyway, I'll get to that in a later video. But today we're going to be talking about Dave Gettleman and his draft press conference. Now, the thing was 32 minutes long or something like that. If you guys want to watch it, go ahead. I'll link it in the description below. There's a YouTube channel that actually puts up everything that's on the Giants website, so you guys can watch it there, called Big Blue Squad or something like that. So let's get right into it. And also, I'm not going to be breaking down the whole thing because there were some stupid questions. There were some obvious questions. They were just questions they needed for just, I guess for their articles or whatever. But questions we already knew. But I want to get into the nitty gritty of these things, and I'm going to go in chronological order from which they happened. So I'll also be putting the clips in here as well. So, all right. So Dave Gettleman has already been on record in saying that this is one of the best draft classes he's ever had. He's ever been a part of in the 7 years he's been as a GM. He has more players along with his scouts and along with other of his front office guys. He and a bunch of all these other guys have the most players rated from first round to fourth round than any of their drafts they've ever been a part of. So they have more first to fourth round graded talent than any other draft before. So, I mean, that's a good thing for the Giants.
You said this is a really strong draft. What is it about the draft in particular that makes you think that and believe that?
Well, frankly, we've pretty much set the board, Jordan. We're tweaking it a little bit here, a little bit there. The scouts went home. I sent them home for the holiday, and it gives me a chance to, do some work on my own, do some additional work. So the board's really basically set, and I'm looking at a board, and we have more players rated as first, second, or third, in first, second, third, and fourth round values than I've had in any draft I've ever. And this is my 8th draft as a GM. No, 7th.
Assuming what he said was true, with 12 total picks, half of them being in the 5th round and later, I mean, you got to think the Giants may want to move up in this draft and probably get back into the 3rd, probably get back into the 4th, and try to get some more players there that are graded in that range. And immediately after he answered that question, somebody else added a question, and he asked that the priority is to draft the best players, and he uses last year's draft as an example, saying that he couldn't pass up on Saquon.
Quarterback a priority for you during this draft?
I think that the priority is to select the best players, really. And I know that sounds silly, but, last year, again, we couldn't pass up on Saquon. He was the best player in the draft. You can't do that. You listen, we've had this conversation before. Eli's closer to 40 than he is to 25. I think we can all do the math. 40 take away 38. We can do that. But at the end of the day, we're going to take the best players.
Obviously, he was trying to get at that he passed on a quarterback because there was either quarterback or Saquon. And so he passed on the quarterback and chose the best player available. And he said that he's going to apply that same philosophy basically to this draft. So obviously the whole Dwayne Haskins comments and things like that, he's saying he's going to go best player available. He's not going to, stretch it out any further than that. He's just going to say out, playing out. Whoever's there at 6, whoever's there at 17, I'm picking the best player available. And he knows, we know, everybody knows that at 6 and 17, quarterback, no matter who's on the board besides Kyler Murray, is not the best player available. So obviously he's telling you right there, he's not taking a quarterback. And Max Kellerman seems to think otherwise, but I'll get into that in another video. And to back up what he said about choosing a quarterback and, should you choose a quarterback if the value is there and things like that. And he just said best player available, best player available, best player available. And then we had some guy trying to get him to say he wants a quarterback, or trying to get him to say something good about one of the quarterbacks in the draft. And he winds up asking a question that Dave Gettleman asks perfectly, that Dave Gettleman answers perfectly. And it seems like he didn't want that answer. He didn't expect a good enough answer for that. I don't know what he was thinking, but he reiterated that question. And what he basically asked was, if you're at 17, would you skip out on a player you love, meaning any defensive talent, edge rusher, cornerback, guys like that at 17? Would you skip out on any of those players that you love and take a quarterback because the value is too hard to pass up? And again, Dave Gettleman saying best player available, best player available. And he said, if there's someone rated, if there's a quarterback graded as a first round, we love him. So I think he's trying to say, maybe we don't see a bunch of these guys, a bunch of these quarterbacks, I'm sure besides Kyler Murray, a bunch of these quarterbacks are rated as a first round grade. Because if you ask me, probably Dwayne and Drew Lock and Daniel Jones, probably second to third round guys, if you ask me what their actual grade is. But if he says, he's saying if we have him as a first rounder, then we have him as a first rounder. But I think he's trying to say that he doesn't really have those guys rated that high.
What I meant with that question was,
I was good at, what did you mean?
a quarterback is so important, and you don't want to force it. But if he's sitting there at 17, the value might be just too good.
You know, what the value might be too good for what?
To pass up, it might be a guy that you don't love, a quarterback that you don't love, but you've got him rated high.
Listen, if we get a quarterback rated in the first round, we love him. If that answers your question. Did I finally get there?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
And then they keep it, and it's just hilarious how he just keeps saying best player available, and they're just trying to make him bite somehow. They're trying to make him bite on the quarterback or say anything about a quarterback, assuming this is Paul Schwartz, and I'll play the clip for you.
You don't have a quarterback in the top 6, you're just not taking him. I mean, you willing to say that right now?
I'm just telling you, I'm not going to force a pick. You can't draft for need. You'll get screwed every time. You'll make a mistake.
And the quarterback, the quarterback's not a little special category where you put an asterisk and say, well, sometimes.
No, it's not, Paul. It's not a little special category.
He says Paul. Dave Gettleman says Paul, so I'm thinking Paul Schwartz. And Paul Schwartz basically asked, is quarterback in a special category? Like, do you put an asterisk there where you say, forget about best player available, and, why don't you just pick up the quarterback? Do you put like an asterisk there saying like, for the quarterback, those rules don't imply? And Dave Gettleman could do nothing but laugh at what he just said, because he's been saying it the whole freaking press conference. He's been saying it for months, even dating back to last year in his first draft with the Giants. Best player available. And these guys are just not able to get Dave Gettleman to bite on their, to bite on their bait. He's not baited whatsoever. And then here is my last point. Here is where I really was interested with this whole press conference. This is probably the best part of the press conference, in which somebody mentioned the Kansas City model, because the Giants have been linked, according to some sources, have been linked, that they said they were interested in the Kansas City model, the Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes model. That basically Patrick Mahomes sat out a year, and then Alex Smith was later on, shooed away to another team, and Patrick Mahomes came in and replaced him, and, the rest is history. So somebody brung that up, and Dave Gettleman was saying, everybody's talking about the Kansas City model. Why aren't we talking about the Green Bay model? And that just really opened my ears. On top of that, he mentioned Kyle Lauletta. So if you ask me right now, and if you guys don't know about the Green Bay model, Brett Favre was there, and Aaron Rodgers was drafted to the Green Bay Packers in 2005, and he wound up not even playing until about, I think, 2007. So he waited about 2 or 3 years, 2.5 years or so, until he got his start as the next heir to the Green Bay quarterbacks and Aaron Rodgers. So that being said, and he mentions Kyle Lauletta, and as soon as he said that, before he mentioned Kyle Lauletta, I was thinking about Kyle. I was saying, listen, what if we already had the guy? What if we're already developing him? What if Dave Gettleman is developing him behind the scenes and he actually does believe in him behind the scenes? Because it just didn't make sense. Honestly, it didn't make sense for Dave Gettleman to draft a quarterback last year if he didn't believe in him. Honestly, I was very shocked that we did do that. If he didn't believe in him, I'm just really just like, how Dave Gettleman is such a good draft expert. Why would he get a quarterback last year if he knew he was going to get a quarterback, in the first round this year or even next year or something like that? But it still is a possibility that Kyle Lauletta could develop into the guy, because he mentioned the Green Bay model. He mentioned sitting behind the older quarterback for about 2 to 3 years and then eventually getting their time. And he mentioned Kyle Lauletta is still learning. He's still doing that. He also says, don't forget about Kyle Lauletta. Don't forget.
The Kansas City model.
What's that? Well, I said the Kansas City model. People have been doing it for years. It's just the most recent one. How about the Green Bay model? Aaron Rodgers falling to him while I had Brett Favre. He sat for 2.5 years, I think, or 3 years. That's what you'd like to do. Listen, Eli is a pro's pro, and you guys know that. Okay, he is a pro's pro, and to get a quarterback in here and to allow him to learn at the feet, it'd be a sweet deal. Kyle's working on that right now, and don't forget about Kyle now. He's working on that right now. So, yes, you'd prefer that to be the situation. You'd hate to throw a guy in, take a young kid and just throw him in. It's not easy.
So, this press conference was pretty interesting and pretty significant. If you ask me, I don't think Dave Gettleman was really speaking in smoke, really. I don't think he was trying to distract anybody or misdirect anybody in this. I think he was just flat out saying what he wanted to do without giving up too much and without providing us with too little information. I think we got enough information in this. Like I said in a bunch of videos, the GM's job is not to give you their plan, because not only are you listening, not only is the media listening, but other teams are listening. You don't think other teams are watching that press conference to try to see if there's anything that they could kind of pick off from what the Giants are saying, or any other team for that matter? I know the Giants are probably doing the same thing for other teams that are drafting in their area as well. So that being said, I think we got enough information. I honestly think the Giants are not going quarterback. They're not going Haskins. If somehow Kyler Murray were to slip up to us, maybe, but I honestly don't see that happening without Miami, without Cincinnati trading up. Trading up if Arizona or Oakland does not look in that direction for Kyler Murray, which is honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. But we got a lot of information. So the Green Bay model, Haskins might not be the guy. No quarterback would be the guy. Best player available, everybody. Best player available. Do not act like these media guys, these sports writers that are interviewing him, just keep asking about the quarterback. Keep asking about the quarterback. If the quarterback is the best player available, then Dave Gettleman would do it. Plain out, just throwing it out there right there. So forget about the Daniel Jones at 6. Forget about Daniel Jones at 17. Forget about Drew Lock at 17. Forget about all that. Best player available. Remember to subscribe, guys. Hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be covering the draft, all of the draft. I'll be live, undrafted analyst, draft edition, live draft day edition. Go ahead and subscribe for that. Make sure you turn on the community, look at the community posts for any updates on things like that. And make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. I made an Instagram. The link is in the description below, and you guys can communicate with me there. All that being said, for all Giants news and NFL news, I'm Kid Blue, and I will see you guys in the next video.